So now we're going to talk about business to business. My first question for you guys, we were in a live class. I would just throw this out to the class. I would say, who can tell me what an RFP is? And then if we're lucky, a couple of you raise your hands and know the answer. Do you know the answer? RFP is a request, let's go back, a request for proposal. And this is one I pulled from the internet. It looks like it's kind of a typical RFP template. And so corporate B2B purchasing is a very different process necessarily than a consumer making a decision to buy something. And in most cases, corporate purchasing follows a regimen that can be very strictly defined. For example, a company wanting to find a new supplier of, I don't know what, staples, or wanting to find any new supplier for anything, at a certain time distance from when the contract with the current provider of staples runs out, this company has to begin like a bidding process for who's going to get the next staple contract with them. And the bidding process has very formal steps. You have to contact a minimum of so many companies. Many times it's a minimum of 3 competitive companies who make staples. You have to ask if they're interested in participating and bidding on your business. And if the answer is yes, the next step, more or less, is to send them this request for proposal, which is a written document that details exactly what your company is looking for from a staple provider. Statement of company purpose and objectives, key dates, what will occur in these timelines, history of events leading to the RFP. Then, very importantly, service and work requirements. These are our expectations. When we run low on staples, you'll send us a new supply within 2 days, whatever it is. Mandatory requirements. Staples have to be made of metal of such and such a thickness that will last such and such a time, and they will such and such a size. What are the specific product requirements? Very, very detailed here. And then you have to, give them, what sort of pricing proposal do you want for the whole contract, per unit, what is it exactly? And then submission guidelines, and this is, the company also is, I'm sure, would have to give the details on the company itself. What is the size of the company? When was it founded? This is the staple manufacturing company. What's the ownership structure? Is it private or public? How many employees? How many manufacturing plants? Maybe a roster of current clients. Maybe even there's a request to interview some current clients by my company that's seeking to find a new staple supplier. I might want to talk to some of your current clients to find out what they have to say about you. But basically, the RFP is a very clear document letting the bidding organization know exactly what is being looked for, so the pricing can be very, very accurate. And then the RFPs are submitted, and there's a purchasing group at my company that will assess and look. We may ask for samples of the product. We're going to maybe ask for meetings with key executives so we can get to know each other a little bit, find out about your backgrounds, the backgrounds of these people who are going to be working on our business. And then at some point we make a decision about whether we stay with the incumbent, who's also been allowed to bid, by the way, unless we're mad at them. or we switch our business to another vendor. And so, and then we inform the winner, and we will then go and write up a contract about, exactly what we're committing to and what the finances are and exactly what we're going to get in return. And that contract is good for, it could be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, cancelable, X many days warning, 90 days. Maybe it's a non-cancelable contract. Those do exist from time to time. And then the business needs to move from the current supplier of staples to whoever the new company is, and there's going to be some glitches and hiccups probably in the midst of that, which is always a cost of switching suppliers. There's a risk to switching suppliers, of course, for the company buying the staples, that it won't work out as planned, or that you'll at least have some learning curve to get over, and so, et cetera, et cetera. But this, as you can see, is a very different purchase process from me deciding to buy a pack of Dentyne. It's okay, Dentyne doesn't cost very much. My deciding to buy a car or a house as a person is a much more grave decision involving lots of money, but it doesn't usually involve this kind of, buying a house is pretty formal. And yes, there are contracts for both of those too, but this is the way companies buy and sell their products and services to each other. And it often involves not just one individual on either side, but several. It involves a formalized decision-making process with steps, and a lot of money is involved. We're not just talking, in most cases, it could be millions or tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. In fact, I think we looked at, was it IBM, I think, or that had won, I think it was IBM, had won the cloud computing data storage contract from the Defense Department, I'm thinking, and Amazon protested, and this was billions of dollars, $5 billion in revenue, something like that. So these things are big. Okay. So this is more about the B2B purchase cycle. And it's a year. It's normally annual, but it can be 2 or 3 years, which in a way makes it a little easier on the bidding, on the company that's, doing, that looking to switch suppliers. It's hard to go through a big calibration of all your suppliers every year. That's a lot of work. It's not very productive work, so normally you want to sign a contract for a couple of 2-3 years. It also means that there's a key performance indicator for all B2B is how many clients are renewing their contracts. What is the renewal rate? And what you want, it's pretty hard to get 100% renewal rate all the time. There's always going to be some churn for one reason or another. People's businesses change, they go out of business, the people who run the company change, they want to bring in another vendor. Typically there is going to be, 20 or 30% of clients kind of churning and going away, which underlines the importance of always looking for new business in a B2B situation. Now, database size is going to be very different with B2B. It's not, doesn't require storage at some data warehousing facility in Oregon, that Amazon may own. It's not that much data. It's not that much customers, not that many customers, not that many points of data. It just, it can be stored pretty easily by the company. Again, the point is each customer could be worth millions or more. So what does that mean? We can afford more to get and to keep. That means we have face-to-face sales going on. It's not an automated CRM process. There are people and human beings who service the business, who are connected with the client, who have relationships with them, It means that travel and entertainment can be afforded to keep these clients. I'm getting an annoying ring here. I'm going to stop and then wait for it to stop ringing and then pick up. Telemarketing. Oh, and it also, corporate entertainment can be pretty luxurious. I mean, a number of Super Bowl tickets are sold for corporate entertainment. Where a company will fly key decision makers on pieces of business to the city wherever the Super Bowl is. They've got a suite. They're not just sitting in their regular seats. They're inside somewhere with a great view. They've got all kinds of sushi and food coming up. And, a lot can be spent in corporate entertainment as well. If an account is worth millions and millions of dollars, this can be done. Now, some companies, Procter & Gamble is one, and there are a number of others, have policies about accepting gifts and entertainment from vendors where you can't do it. It's not allowed. And that is typically a pretty smart policy. But not all companies have that policy. Oh, now I've got to work on getting to the next slide. So your customer in B2B is a business, but it's also individuals who are decision makers and influencers. And what that means is that decision making for a purchase is complicated. And as we've said, with the RFP, etc., and the process for bidding, for instance, decision making has institutional and personal implications, meaning I do try to build a relationship, if I'm a vendor, with my clients. I want them to like me. I want them to think I'm knocking myself out on their business. I want them not to lose me on their business. And yes, there are institutional factors in making a decision, but remember, it's also people making a decision about who to go with. And so personal relationships matter. Segmentation in B2B marketing. It's obviously different. You still do it, but it's different from consumer segmentation. So here we really are figuring out the business and what it is. And so this little piece shows, I think it's from your book, shows how consumer segmentation can relate to some degree to B2B. And yes, in both, you need a name and address, a source code, meaning where did you get the referral, or, how did you get the business, the year you started your relationship. Now, here's where gender decision maker comes in. Now, by the way, one thing that is not, I think, captured too much in B2B information capture, data capture, one thing that may not be captured so much are the personality traits and the psychographics of the people who make the decisions at the company. And just for your information, the personality test that we all took at the beginning of the term is something I learned at a sales seminar when I was running business development for the outdoor division of Gannett Outdoor. And I never forgot it because I thought it was such useful information. One of the best things I learned at one of these things was at our big annual sales meeting that we held at a fancy hotel and a resort in Scottsdale, Arizona. And some guy came in and probably got paid $5,000 or $10,000 to introduce us to this, the 4 personality types. And the reason that they were teaching salespeople the 4 personality types actually was so that we could use that in a selling situation. So that if we were meeting someone new, we could try to assess their personality. Is she an expressive or an amiable or a driver or an analytical? And based on that, we could then adjust our pitch. So that was a very kind of informal